Ja, hallo und herzlich willkommen zu den Monday Meetings. Schön, dass ihr da seid und auch schönen guten Abend an alle, die jetzt von zu Hause zuschauen. Wir haben heute wieder einen Livestream, das ist sehr schön. Das heißt, das Kollektiv Junges Loft, veranstalten jetzt zum 3. Mal die Reihe Monday Meetings. 2018 gab es die erste Auflage, letztes Jahr hatten wir dann MusikerInnen aus den nördlichen Gefilden Europas zu Gast und dieses Jahr findet das Ganze unter dem Titel Ego Nobis statt. Kollektiver Individualismus ist das Thema und es wird nach dem Konzert auch einen Talk geben mit der Band, ein kleines Interview, also da es ja auch kein Hang an der Bar geben wird natürlich, haben wir mit Corona zu tun, das ist natürlich klar. Deswegen gibt es die Möglichkeit eben hier, uns über dieses Thema und über die Musik, das Konzert auszutauschen. Da wird es auch die Möglichkeit geben, noch Fragen zu stellen. Und genau, wir haben eine ganz, ganz tolle Band da, die ich gleich vorstellen möchte. Davor möchte ich aber natürlich noch ein paar Leuten danken, ohne die diese Reihe hier nicht möglich wäre. Das sind zum einen natürlich das Loft mit Hans-Martin Müller und Benedikt Müller und der Second Floor e.V., die uns hier diesen Raum, ja, ein Applaus wert, vielen Dank, die uns diesen Raum zur Verfügung stellen und den Stream auch möglich machen. Dann gilt natürlich ein Dank dem Ministerium für Wissenschaft und Kultur und dem Spielstätten Programmpreis APPLAUS, die uns Fördermittel zur Verfügung gestellt haben, damit das möglich ist, dass dieses Konzert ohne Eintritt stattfinden kann und wir den MusikerInnen auch eine Gage zahlen können. Nichtsdestotrotz freuen wir uns natürlich über Spenden. Im Ausgang, wenn Sie dann den Saal verlassen, befindet sich am Ausgang ein Spendentopf. Da können Sie sehr gern noch was spenden. Es gibt auch online die Möglichkeit zu spenden. Es ist in der Infobox eine IBAN hinterlegt und ein PayPal-Konto. Da können Sie einen Betrag Ihrer Wahl auf das Konto spenden. Ja, wir haben eine fantastische Band da, die sich extra für dieses Konzert und zu diesem Thema zusammengefunden hat. Unter dem Thema Les Parlements des Choses werden Sie heute Ihr audiovisuelles Konzept vorstellen. Und ich wünsche Ihnen sehr viel Spaß dabei. Ich begrüße Lynn Cassiers, Thielemans und Jozef Dumoulin. Viel Spaß!
It's a long, long night for the light come right. Late, so night for the coast out. Like in a mesa. High, little love's joke found. Cry of time. Nick you. Lost enough to confess, dear. Long goes down, long goes down, long goes down, long goes down, house down, let it stone,
Rozentjes.
Ik krijg rozentjes, hè? Ik zal er een paar geven, niet te veel. Het is een beetje van je brood. Je hebt al zoveel. Ik zal een banaan, melk, een brood. Mag er in bed is dat?
Lekker.
Ja, oké. Kijk, dan zal ik er twee. Ik zal er nog even. Kijk, als we
Chicken nemen.
ja, als we stukjes snijden, kraken op, breken. Oké, dan maak ik er in bed.
Tu l'avais déjà en Alsace? Ah bah voilà. Ouais, mais bon après tu vois, Ouais, mais bon, après tu vois, chacun sa part du gâteau aussi. Ouais, bah là je suis dans le train, là je suis en train de rentrer de Strasbourg. Et là en fin d'après-midi j'ai pu faire quelques rames réversibles régionales. Ouais, non, franchement, en heure de pointe, il y en a pas mal. Hein. Donc des... Ouais, bah, franchement, là, tu peux en profiter. Il y a encore des 67 400, il y a des 25 000. Franchement, tranquille. Et puis la prochaine fois, je fais 100 000. Je viens faire ça dans les alentours, dans les alentours de Salerne, un truc comme ça. Ou de Célestin aussi. Donc voilà. Toi, t'étais au Rouge aujourd'hui? Ah ok, d'accord, ok. Ok. Bah, je te laisse y aller au ton taf et bon courage en tout cas. Je te dérange pas? Ok. Ok, parce que j'ai pas envie. Donc demain et après-demain, je sais pas, je compterai rester chez moi à la cour et puis finir ce que j'ai à faire pour mon projet. Mais si t'as quelque chose à me proposer, je peux être là, je te tiens au courant. Ok, d'accord.
demain, peut-être que je vais devoir aller à Reims.
sentir nice rake cretia laya stani stories on the beat kostar by kidista not
Yeah, thank you very, very much for this concert, for this great journey. Yeah, as I said in the beginning, our theme, the topic is collective individualism. And Lynn, in the info text you sent us, you wrote that. Wait, I have to. Yeah. You said that maybe the most direct sense of collective individualism is maybe the act of making music in itself, but also that you are search for different ways to look at this theme, and yeah, maybe you can talk a little bit and tell us more about finding different ways, and also about the video. What was the idea behind it, and yeah. Yeah.
What?
Can you give the microphone?
Oh, this is the microphone. I don't want to fall back from
ruin
that
the party.
crazy moment.
Yeah, so I think it wasn't easy actually for me. Like collective individualism is a very broad term. And I think the first thing that came to mind, like you said, was just making music. It was like instantly that I thought about it, and it seemed very evident so evident that it represents this kind of term, that I actually had difficulties to find another way in the term or in the subject. So I think it was really good that we had this talk, the three of us, to brainstorm about, okay, what can it mean to make music, actually, because I think especially for me that's the problem, that when I have to make music, it's so I'm so with the sound that I cannot reflect on a term like that. That's so broad, and that requires really reflection and long reflection. So I think it was more about finding an angle or a method that we could use to help the music. So I think then Eric came up with Bruno Latour, with Le Parlement des Choses, to actually see collectivism or collectiveness as the whole of things instead of just society and people. So we started to think about, like, okay, if we use all the objects and animals and sound that is in the room, we call that our collective sphere of an individual, no? Like, so. And then Jozef came up with the idea of like having videos. Like, this was also, I think it was also a solution for the fact of not just to be streaming a concert at the same time as it was to kind of get into that sphere. So that's why we did this video. It's like everyone has filmed his own sphere, individual sphere, but with the collectiveness of the things in it, no? Like, and we wanted to play with the fact of having the audio as well, so we would actually have to interact and see how it played with us, actually. I think that's how I see it. I don't know if you guys maybe have different ideas.
You want to add something to the video? Sorry, we just have one. Yeah.
Erik, alsjeblieft. Dankjewel. Yeah, about the video, I think it's maybe interesting to point out that we had that talk maybe, when was it? End of May? Yeah. Beginning of June. So it was still like we were all pretty much in lockdown. And I think, yeah, already the talk we had it over, I don't know, Skype or Zoom or anything. So we weren't like physically in the same room. And I think that also influenced us pretty much in the way we talked about the subject, about, we were supposed to do something together, but we're still each of us sitting in our own room, in our own house, in our own country. So we're also thinking about, at that moment there was still so much going on the internet with people streaming concerts at home and stuff, and I had seen also some alternatives propositions left, some spots, and I thought it was a nice idea to try something like this for us too. Like, we didn't want to make like a very conceptual, highbrow video, just like film our own intimacy, basically, and even if the music doesn't, like, we didn't really mean to make music that goes well with the exact images. It's more like, that's our life when we're not playing music. That's what happens when we play music. And if you put those two together, it means something in itself. And it's, again, points back to this collectiveness and the individual part of it. That's
nice. I really felt like in the video there's a little part of everything in it, like a tiny part of everything in the world. Maybe it's a little too, but it was very like an intense journey for me. Yeah, really nice. And if we focus on the music aspect, I mean, maybe it's an obvious way to look at this topic, but I see three very individual musicians with their own language coming together and become a collective and develop and creating their collective language. So maybe can you tell us something about this process, becoming together and grow as a collective?
Oh yeah. Give it to me. This is, I think at one moment in time, hopefully not so far in the future, we will look back on this and have a good laugh. I really do. Yeah, but let's really laugh. What you just said makes me think of a German sociologist, philosopher, Hartmut Rosa, and he talks a lot about resonance, and resonance pointing to, with that he means, how do you relate to the world? It's based on philosophical, the phenomenological tradition. So it's like Heidegger and Merleau-Ponty, he based it on that, and of course, it traces back way further. And one of the important aspects, or properties of resonance has to do with speaking with your own voice. If you don't speak with your own voice, there is no interaction, or there is nothing to really interact with. And personally, I've been doing research myself into that, and I'm still doing it. I'm still interested in and it's very speculative, of course. I'm really interested in what is the, I'm as a percussionist, I use objects. And I interact with the objects through my own body and the rhythms and my neurological system that informs me on what a pattern could be, or a way of interacting that is, that works for me, that makes sense for my body and my nervous system, so to speak, my constitution. But an object might have its own rhythm, or could teach me more than what I am projecting into it. So this thing of I'm starting to get really interested in this, and that's the idea of Buna Latour also, to give a voice to anything, or in juridical terms, to have a representative in parliament for the Donau, or the Rhine, I mean, or a mountain, to protect it, to give it a voice, literally. That's the breakdown. But yes, so this idea of giving something its own voice, or speculatively getting interested in what could it tell me outside of a normal time space that is a concert, even, because those are codified time spaces in human culture. But what is the timing, if you want, of a mountain? A tree? How do we relate to the speed of stars, or all that stuff? I think is very interesting, intriguing for me, and hints to also, how do you, and in human terms, sociological terms, or just human terms, when we come together, yes, then you get back to learning to speak with an own voice. I think the only way to really come together in a rich way is meerstemmigheid, to have multiple voices sounding together with their own, without necessarily having to make sense together even.
So you mean that to create a strong collective, or to develop a collective language or voice, you need really strong individual voices, right? If I understand.
Well, I think strong is a dangerous word, because then we can talk about power, of course, but also a culturally ingrained idea of clarity. Something is valuable when it is clear, and I don't always think that's true. And also on the continuum of chaos versus, or you have a continuum, let's say, chaos and structure, meaninglessness and meaningfulness. There is no way or no reason to give more value to something that has no meaning as to what has meaning, except for we cannot stay with no meaning for too long. But if you have always meaning and clarity, it gets kind of boring as well. You lose wonder, you lose what can happen, you lose what if, you lose all that wonder, the magic, resonance. If you always know what you're gonna get, or you think, that's, all that, the wonder, you lose magic. Anyway, something like that.
And did you sometimes or ever have the feeling like to give up something of your individual personality when you're part, or to be part of a collective in a band, for example? Or is it maybe the other way around, that the collective gives you more individualism, for example?
You seem to want to answer that.
No, it's like,
Here, take the horn.
after taking it to you, Lynn. No, it may seem like a very simple question. It's like, when I'm having a relationship with that girl, after some years, I think like, I have to find myself back and all that, like that kind of vibe. But actually, it's It actually, every time you give up, and like the whole thing of what is yourself is already a good question. You think a lot about yourself, but if that is that really existing, and everything you identify with, is that really yourself? It's just like a mental thing, right? So I rather think like if you play with people, to come back to music, it's more about discovering stuff about yourself all the time, and then about giving up things about yourself. Yeah. To yeah, I don't know. I had a lot of images coming by when you asked the question. But I give the mic to Lima. Just like one thing. Yeah, but like since the beginning of the discussion, I have to think of like this. I don't really like that concept, but it's like this Buddhist concept. Now, like if you want to really egoistic, like really think about yourself, and you really think about it, what you need to do to be in a good condition yourself. You need to be really thinking about the collective all the time, otherwise you won't be able to get what you want. And sometimes some people say like, yeah, so if you really want all this stuff for yourself, you have to think about the other. I don't know, it doesn't sit well with me, but it's true. And what I want to say actually is that like, what I always liked myself about jazz music in particular, and if we consider this like an extension of what we did, like an extension of jazz music, is that if you want, it pushes people to be really taking strong, strong individual positions in order to be able to function for the group. And I think that's really beautiful. And that's what I realize, that's something that always really attracted me in that music. And what I say, and like, if you want things to go well in the music, people have to, really act like individuals in an independent and thought through way. And then,
Yes, but I will because I agreed. But strong can be also a strong question, or sometimes it is very strong to allow not to know what to do for something to really come up.
all that,
Yeah. Okay. But just clarifying the whole thing, because I think I always in jazz, if you talk about specifically jazz in which we grew up as a studying it and a scene and learning from masters, there is a lot of focus on clarity. And I had a discussion, a very good talk with Billy Hart about that. He used to be my teacher and a good friend, and we talked about because we did a duo project together, and I brought an object a bag full of objects, and he was playing drums and I was playing that stuff. And with that stuff, when I'm using these objects, I don't use them. I touch them, and then the sound inspires me to go somewhere. It's not that I know a little bit. Of course, that cymbal will give some kind of that. So it becomes zones, but I don't really know what's coming. It's a bit aleatory. At least there are really strong aleatory aspects. It's not like a key of a piano. I mean, it's much more aleatory. And so we were talking about that, about this idea of clarity and how things can develop also out of unclarity, because that's in that sense it maybe relates more to dialoguing or something. If you want to speak about collective individualism or playing together, I also often or sometimes relate to this idea of dialoguing, and to have a good dialogue you need a few things. You need a partner who has an opinion. If he just agrees with what you say, it's just boring. I mean, there is no dialogue. If he just says no, I have another. If he's not listening, there is no dialogue. So there is a lot. I mean, in sociologic realms, this thing of dialogue is very present nowadays. But I think it has a lot to do with being social A human being is always social. There is no way not to be social, actually. So this thing of collective individualism and this opposition of both is like any polarity. It works in a certain way, and there is ways to transcend the oppositions. It's not necessarily always a question of individual versus collective or whatever. The collective is in the individual already anyway. I mean, there is no way to be an individual if not out of a collective. And there is no collective without individuals. So what does it really mean? And how do you become part of something? I mean, yeah. I don't know. It's about presence, actually. The question is about presence, I think. More than anything else. And that can be an active thing or an inactive thing. That can be silent, that can be with sound. That's where interesting silence can come from. If the presence is there, you don't have to do things. You can do things. You can listen, you can choose not to. But I think, for me at least, it has to do with presence. If I'm present and I'm well in my body, well in the room, and I can start to interact and get attentive, that's it, basically, for me. And talking about collective and individual is theorizing, which has its place. But as a thing to do, to be, it's to be. It's the question of being and doing. And doing out of being, or doing to be, all that stuff. Yeah, anyways.
You want to say?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much. Does anyone of you in the audience has a question?
It's for Lynn. Actually, I want to ask because I feel like the human voice is very connected to an individual feeling, like naturally. And when you went into electronics and sounds, how did you then, out of the huge field, come back to, okay, that's the stuff I've now found feels individual again, like my own language?
Yeah, it's something that grows on you. I think, like, I started to use electronics like quite early, I think. And first it was on my own, and like I used it for all different stuff. Like I didn't really play together with people. It was more functional, like to practice harmony and all these things, like and to have fun. But I think when I started to use it with musicians, I really found another function that my voice could have. No, like I could stay in a band without taking this role of being the voice or having a certain, which gives you time also, I think, to listen to yourself and to the music, like what needs to be done. Anyway, from that game that I just gradually expanded to this whole set. This is like a long story of 10, 15 years that it really grew on me, I think, so it's not like I bought a bunch of stuff and then I checked out, I found my personality. No, it's like I tried a lot of different stuff from friends, and I just kept what I could use. Then I don't really think it's important really what you use. I think the concepts, you have it more or less in your head, what you really want to look for, and I think, yeah, it's a long story.
Anyone else? Okay, then thank you again very much, Jozef Dumoulin, Lynn Cassiers, Thielemans. Thank you. Das nächste Konzert der Monday Meetings ist am 19. Oktober. Nick Dunstan wird zu Gast sein, kommt gern wieder vorbei oder schaltet ein. Es wird auch wieder einen Stream geben. Vielen Dank und schönen Abend noch.